First Lord of the Imperium is a little audio drama about Malcador the Sigillite. I quite like it, but when I first heard about it, the word was very negative. Spoilers from this point, so if you care, bugger off. All gone? Swell. So, in the multitude of relayed synopses that I kept seeing, folks were saying that this story states that the Emperor and Malcador had planned for a civil war in advance as a way to get rid of the Primarchs once they were done conquering the galaxy. Upon reading these posts, my reaction was one of melancholic disappointment. Something like, oh great, Laurie, old fluff deletes new fluff Goulding is here to continue the trend under Black Library of the authors trying to top each other in the field of writing the Emperor as an irredeemable autistic tosser. It's time for more of the once romanticized and ancient Taurus heresy to get turned to the tale of the galaxy's worst dad. Turns out he never loved his sons at all. He was just an emotionless spurg, totally devoid of empathy and mostly devoid of personality all along. Time for another story that goes about setting up the replacement of the battle between corrupted son against regretful father as he is stricken with anguish that he must strike down his most cherished progeny for the survival of all humankind, with a fight between a luminous blockhead and a personification of father issues. Let's just ignore the saving grace of Master of Mankind that Big E is perceived radically differently by different people, and just provide the doctor's report confirming him to be a sociopath. Remember, Malcador was the real smartest guy, who's totally not acting as an authorial surrogate, and Chaos's best stepdad. However, I'm glad to say that after listening to First Lord of the Imperium, I can confirm that there's no need to panic, and things aren't as terrible as I had been led to presume. Now, in the story, Malcador does state that the Emperor had planned the Horus Heresy as a method to kill off the Primarchs. It even states that he had mistreated a bunch of them on purpose to draw out the battle lines, and that the only problem with the plan was Chaos getting involved. It goes further to state that the Emperor was just some Terran warlord before Malcador came along, as well as massively no-sell the importance of the Aquila as a representation of the union of Mars and Terra. Now, you may be thinking, wow, that sounds horrible. Why again shouldn't I panic? Well, you see, it's because Goulding put in this one line near the end.
I lighted them to spare their sorrow.
Now, this line is used in such a way where you have no idea what he's referring to when he says it. It could be an admission that everything he claims in the story is an outright fabrication. It could be that almost all of it was true except for one small part. It may be that some parts were true, some parts weren't, and others were a bit in between. The point is that it's so ambiguous. See, back in the good old days, the heresy was mostly a backdrop, the details long lost to time. All we had to go by was a rough explanation from the old collected visions, and what could be inferred from who was on which side as of M41. Don't get me wrong, the heresy is interesting as hell and did deserve to be written about, but the issue of writing so many books about it is that there's just no way it can be done while still preserving the mystery. It's intrinsically impossible. But things like this, these little morsels of ambiguity that put so much in doubt, are among the best ways to recapture that mystery that lets the ancient times when legends walked amongst men still feel like, well, that. And that is how this story, with one line, manages to go from something that seemed like a horrifying retcon into just the kind of thing that most benefits this last stretch in the codifying of the heresy. It opens up freedom of interpretation, expands room for headcanon, and brings in that all-important ambiguity that epitomizes how history is comprehended. Aside from that, the rest of the story flows nicely, blending in elements of levity with the more somber tone. The voice acting is first rate and the sound effects and music follow the high standard of Black Library's audio dramas. Shame my first exposure to the content of it was delivered by such a reactionary and venomous lot. Serves me right, I suppose, for not setting my expectations of the quality and reliability of discourse on 4chan even lower than the subterraneous level they already had been. But yeah, it's pretty good.